Likutei Sichos, Chelik Chavches, volume 28, the second Sikha for Parshas Shlach. This Sikha will explain the story of the Mekoshish Eitzim, the one who went to collect wood on Shabbos and he was put to death. Why did he choose to Mimachal Shabbos, to desecrate the Shabbos? What point was he trying to prove? And the connection of this to the Parsha, the story of the Meraglim, the spies, and also the connection to the prohibition of Avodah Zarah, which is mentioned preceding the story of the Mekoshish Eitzim, right after the completion of the story of the Meraglim. And we will learn from this how at times, even though one doesn't put their heart to something, meaning that it may not have the proper intent, but just action alone, especially when it comes to a mitzvah, can be very, very impactful, very meaningful. So as an introduction to be familiar with some of the concepts that will be discussed in the Sikha, so when it comes to the melachos of Shabbos, the tasks that are forbidden of Shabbos, one of the primary points of it is, as the Gemara states, meleches machsheves asra Torah. That the Torah prohibits ultimately, when it comes to Shabbos, a melacha that is tied in with machshava, means it's planned, it's contrived, it's intentful. And therefore, and there's certainly an opinion that holds this way, that a melacha she'eina tzricha legufa, if you do a task, but you don't need to have the actual result of the task itself, but a secondary result, in other words, your intent is not directly for what this task is accomplishing, then you wouldn't be chayiv. The example for it is, if somebody, let's say, is digging a hole, and his intent is not to make a hole, he's not building, but rather, he needs the sand. So he is doing the act of digging a hole, but he's not really intending to dig a hole. He just needs the sand. If he had another way of acquiring the sand without digging the hole, he would do so. So that's one concept to be familiar with. Another one, the idea of hasra'ah, of warning. The rule is that if somebody does a transgression, even if you have witnesses, that is not enough to put a person to trial, convict him, and sentence him to whatever punishment the Torah prescribes. Rather, there has to be hasra'ah. What is hasra'ah? Hasra'ah means you warn him. You say, listen, you cannot do what you're doing. You can't do such and such because of this and this law in the Torah. And they have to quote the law. Typically, it's explained, what's the reason for hasra'ah, for warning, is in order to ascertain if the person is doing it with intent. Because the person could be doing it not realizing that it's Shabbos, or not realizing what they're doing, or not understanding that it's wrong. So when you warn them, and yet they go ahead and do it, well, that's proof that they intended to do what they're doing. Finally, the meaning of the word mitzvah. So we know mitzvah means commandment. However, in Hebrew, there are various words which express this idea of commandment. Let's say pkudah. Why is this the choice word to describe all the mitzvot that we have from Hashem? Because as it's explained in Kabbalah, mitzvah meloshain tzafsa v'chibur also comes from the etymology of the word tzafsa v'chibur, which means to be fused, to be connected. Let's go into the Sikha. So at the very, very end of our parsha, Rashi gives us insight. He explains something about the story of Mekoshish Eitzim, the one who collected the wood. And he says, why was the story of Mekoshish Eitzim nismecha? Why is it so close? Why does it come preceding the prohibition of Avodah Zarah? This is to tell us, says Rashi, that one who's mechal Shabbos, one who desecrates the Shabbos, it's compared to as if he worshipped Avodah Zarah, which Avodah Zarah is equal to, is compared to all the mitzvahs. In other words, it's to tell us the severity, the magnitude of and importance of the prohibition of desecrating the Shabbos. This is Rashi. In the Gemara, we find a Tosfos. If you look at Baba Basra, Daf Yekuf Yotesam at Beis, Tosfos over there says that the story of the Mekoshish Eitzim, the one who collected the wood, actually took place in the beginning of the 40 years, right after it was decreed upon them that they cannot enter Eretz Yisrael because of the story with the spies. And Tosfos says that the Medrash says, regarding this individual who committed this Chilul Shabbos and was put to death, that quote, Mekoishish Eitzim L'Shem Shomayim Niskaven. He actually had intent for the purpose of heaven, meaning he did it for the right reasons. He did it for the sake of Hashem. Why? The Medrash says because the people were saying, once it was decreed upon them they can't go to Eretz Yisrael, they said, well, this is proof, this means that we are not obligated to do mitzvahs. What did he do? He stood up, says the Medrash, he was Mechal Shabbos, knowing, and in order for him to be put to death, so people will realize that this is real, this is serious. If you're not obligated to something, how can they punish you for not doing it or for going against it? And this was proof to everyone that indeed, even though they were barred from going into Eretz Yisrael, but still they are obligated to keep all the mitzvahs, to do all the actual mitzvahs. So according to this, from Tosfos it comes out that the story of Mekoshes Eitzim connects to the general theme, not just particularly to Avodah Zarah, like Rashi said, but it connects to the whole essence, theme of the entire parsha. Now, even according to Tosfos, we have to say that it also has to be a connection to Avodah Zarah, because the fact is that the story of Mekoshes Eitzim doesn't come immediately preceding the story of the Meraglim of the spies. Rather, first the Torah inserts, so to speak, the prohibition of Avodah Zarah and its punishment, and then the Torah proceeds with the story of the Mekoshes Eitzim, of the one who was collecting the wood. And indeed, Tosfos himself explains that the Mekoshes Eitzim knew that one who's Mechal Shabbos gets put to death. It wasn't clear. That Moshe Rabbeinu knew that one who's Mechal Shabbos gets put to death, and it just wasn't clear what kind of death, what kind of punishment. And Moshe thought perhaps it is the same one as the Torah prescribes for one who worships Avodah Zarah. And that's where the clarity came from Hashem and said, no, it's not chenek, it is skila. You don't strangle him to death like by Avodah Zarah, but rather he gets stoned to death. Okay? Moreover, we can suggest that it's not only that there's a general similarity between Chilul Shabbos, desecration of Shabbos, and Avodah Zarah, but rather also in the manner in which this Mekoshes Eitzim chose to be Mechal Shabbos. The manner in which he did it is also very telling and apropos to our general subject, and particularly also how it connects to Avodah Zarah. So the Rebbe says we'll understand all of this by first prefacing with a general question in the entire matter. Here's the thing. It would seem that his whole purpose, the Mekoshes Eitzim, was to demonstrate to everyone that they are obligated to mitzvahs. So why did he choose to communicate this in such a manner? Specifically through being Mechal Shabbos, and moreover, to cause himself to be put to death, which is like a terrible sin. It's almost like suicide. Now, according to Targum Yonasan ben Aziel, he wanted to demonstrate to them which death you get put, what kind of death do you get sentenced with for Chilul Shabbos. The Yonasan ben Aziel says they just didn't know, so he wanted to teach that to him. But according to Tosfos, why was it specifically Chilul Shabbos? Why couldn't it be anything else? If the whole purpose is to tell everybody, no, you do need to keep mitzvahs, even though you're barred from entering Eretz Yisrael, you still are obligated to perform all the mitzvahs. Why didn't he choose another mitzvah? One that's not so terrible, one that he had to actually compel himself to be put to death. Now the Maharsha explains how it's possible that a person who's trying to look out for the good of the people, right? He's trying to teach them. He's trying to let them know that they are indeed obligated to keep the mitzvahs. He's trying to encourage them to do mitzvahs, meaning he's looking out l'shem shamayim for the sake of heaven. How is it possible that he did such a terrible transgression? Because the fact is he did desecrate the Shabbos. So the Maharsha explains that since he himself had no need for the wood that he was collecting, he himself had no direct benefit and therefore no intent for the actual outcome of the melacha. Therefore, And his whole purpose was just to let everybody know that you have to keep Shabbos, let everybody know that you keep the mitzvahs. So therefore, for him himself, for his soul, so to speak, in his heart, he knew, and Hashem knows, that indeed, he didn't desecrate the Shabbos. He didn't really do the act of desecration of Shabbos for himself. Why? Because he didn't need that, and the whole point is that meleches machshavas asur Torah. That really the primary basis of all the malachas is what your intent is, what you're looking to get out of it, if you're looking to achieve that which that malacha does. It's just for the people who saw him, for the spectators, to them and to the witnesses, it appeared that he was 100% a Machal Shabbos, and the halacha is that you go according to what you see. Okay, you give him warning and you go according to what you see. And this, but the Marsha explains, could also be applied to what we said in the Tosfos. Since his whole purpose was to prove to everybody that they're still obligated to keep mitzvahs, not his purpose, his intention wasn't to be Mechal Shabbos or to get the wood. So it comes out that in essence, he was not Mechal Shabbos. But yet, still, Hashem gave the instruction to put him to death, even though Hashem himself knew very well that he didn't indeed do the act of Chilul Shabbos, but Hashem said that you have to put him to death. Why? Because what meets the eye, what the rest of the human beings saw, was that he was Mechal Shabbos. Or in the words of the Marsha, the witnesses, they didn't know what his intent was. They gave him a warning, and that establishes, according to halacha, that established intent, that he knew that he is doing Mechal Shabbos. That was enough to convict him and to put him to death. The question is, at the end of the day, this is Torah's emes, the Torah of truth. And since in truth, indeed, he did not commit Chilul Shabbos, how is it possible that Torah's emes should direct to put him to death? The answer is, Torah's emes, the Torah of truth, gives us, the human beings, instructions how to deal with certain situations and when to apply certain punishments on a human level. And since for us, as we experienced it, as a human being, as the witnesses, as the Bezdin experienced it, it did appear as Chilul Shabbos, it looked like Chilul Shabbos, it smelled like Chilul Shabbos, so it was Chilul Shabbos, and it is the truth when it comes on the scale of man. Now we can appreciate the connection between Chilul Shabbos and Avodah Zarah. Why the Torah first introduces the prohibition of Avodah Zarah, of idol worship, and its punishment, and then Chilul Shabbos. Because when it comes to Avodah Zarah, we find something very unique. Something that perhaps is exclusive to Avodah Zarah. And that is in the words of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, the end of chapter 19, that he says that when it comes to a nisayon, it comes to a challenge, a test of Avodah Zarah, every single Yid, even the lowest Jew, the lowliest of Jews, would be Meiser Nefesh, would give himself totally over, self-sacrifice, says the Alter Rebbe, and follow these words, even not to do even one action of Avodah Zarah against the true faith in Hashem. For example, says the Alter Rebbe, to bow down to Avodah Zarah, even though he doesn't have his heart in it at all. Now think about it. Let's analyze this. In essence, what is the prohibition of Avodah Zarah? What is really the chait of Avodah Zarah? That it's really something that is contingent and dependent on one's heart, on one's feelings. Because what is the whole idea of Avodah Zarah? Essentially, that a person gives importance to, in his heart, to an angel, to a different entity, to some celestial being, over Hashem. And therefore, it should come out that if somebody does an action of Avodah Zarah without any intention, without really caring about it, without really having his heart in it, it would seem that it shouldn't be considered anything. Yet, what does the Alter Rebbe say? That a Yid will be ready to be Meiser Nefesh, to give up his life, not even to do an action, even if he doesn't mean it. And think about it. He's giving up his life. It's not really Avodah Zarah, to the extent that if he did, if he was too weak and he did fall through, and he did do it because he was forced to do it, because he was under the pressure and the threat of death, He's not going to be punished for it. Because it's not real Avodah Zarah. He didn't really do it. His mind is not there. His heart's not there. What's the explanation? That since the action is the action of Avodah Zarah, even though in true essence it's not Avodah Zarah because he doesn't really believe in it, but still by a Yid, this already becomes considered Avodah Zarah and he's ready to be Ma'aseh Nefesh. And now we'll appreciate the connection between the guy collecting wood, the Mekoshes Eitzim, and Avodah Zarah. In Shabbos, we also have the same idea. That as we explained in the introduction, essentially Shabbos is about Meleches Machshavas. It's what your intent is. It's what you're contriving, what you're really planning in your mind. That's really what counts. And therefore, it would seem that inherently you should not be chayiv on something that you had no intent for that particular outcome, even though you did it. And there is opinion that holds this way. Melacha she'ein tzricha legufa your pater. Especially when you're doing it, not just you're not doing it for no negative intent. You're doing it for Hashem's sake. But yet, what do we see? That since the action in itself is an action of Chilul Shabbos, and the fact that you don't have that intent is not anything that anybody else knows. What they see is an action of Chilul Shabbos. What they're experiencing is somebody being Mechal Shabbos. According to Torah's Emes, you had to be put to death. And now we'll appreciate the connection of these two things, of all this, the Mekoshes Eitzim and Avodah Zarah, to the Chet HaMeraglim, what happened, what transpired with the Meraglim, and what point they were trying, the Mekoshes Eitzim was trying to prove. We know that Chassidus explains that essentially what was the mistake of the Meraglim? In other words, they were big tzaddikim. Why didn't they want to go into Eretz Yisrael? Because they understood and they appreciated that when they come to Eretz Yisrael, as the Torah prescribes, there are so many mitzvot that are contingent upon entering the land. But that also means that now they have to get involved in all these earthly, menial things, which they thought, in their estimation, will distract them from their connection to Hashem, because they have to get involved, they have to get hands-on, action, which will keep them busy. As the Torah says, 6 days a week you should work, 6 years you should work, and then the 7th you should rest. And they felt like being in the price is too high to pay. They would rather stay in the Midbar, where they're totally spiritual, totally abstract, hardly any actionable mitzvahs, hardly any mitzvahs that are connected to action, because they're not plowing, they're not sowing, they're not doing all those things. And they should just be able to serve Hashem, be involved in spiritual matters. So therefore, once Hashem decreed upon them, that generation, that they can go into Eretz Yisrael, they thought, that means that we are not shaykh, we're not related, we're not connected to this idea of mitzvahs, maisiyas, of mitzvahs that are connected to action. It's not like they wanted to go against Hashem and say, okay, we're not going to do any mitzvahs. On the contrary, they thought that this was Hashem's will. Since Hashem said, you will not go into Eretz Yisrael, He didn't kill them right away. He let them live out their life and just not in Eretz Yisrael. So they understood that wrongfully, mistakenly, that this perhaps is a suggestion that Hashem is saying, okay, you guys are connected more to the spiritual realm of things, but not to Maisa, not to the literal action down here in this world. And this is where the story of the Mekoshes Eitzim comes. That he took a mitzvah, that it would seem, Shabbos, it would seem that inherently the whole mitzvah is all about the spiritual aspect of it, the thought, the intent, the desire, and so on. And yet, what did he prove? That because of the action, it's the action that rules. It's the action that at the end of the day makes the difference. Because he was put to death, he got killed for the action that he did, notwithstanding the fact that he really didn't have intent and desire of the actual Avera taking place, the Chilul Shabbos. So the Rebbe says the bottom line is, what did we learn from this? The most fundamental thing in Yiddishkeit, that a mitzvah, which is our tzafsa v'chibur, our connection to Hashem, is through action.